Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Bucky Unfiltered. This is a webcast that seeks to go a little bit more in depth on some of the great resources that UW can offer for our students. My name is Allie Weber, and I work for the Department of Campus and Visitor Relations as one of their special projects interns. In today's episode, we are very excited to be speaking with Meredith McGlone from University Communications, as well as Jim Verbick, our Deputy Clerk. So first of all, I would just like to thank you all for taking time out of your very busy schedules to record this podcast with me today. I'm sure, given the current climate of this semester, as well as the election coming up, I think a lot of new students are going to have a lot of questions regarding where to vote and how to vote on campus. So I'm very excited to be speaking with you all today, and hopefully we can get some of those questions answered for them. But before we go into those conversations, why don't we just do a quick round of introductions, just so our audience kind of knows who we're speaking with today. We can start with you, Meredith.
Hi, I'm Meredith McGlone, Director of News and Media Relations for University Communications, and our office is one part of the Badgers Vote Coalition on campus, which is led out of the Mortgage Center for Public Service.
Hi, I'm Jim Verbick. I'm the Deputy Clerk for the City of Madison. Our office administers the elections in the entire City of Madison, which encompasses the UW-Madison campus.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining us today. So first, for our audience who might not know, what kind of is specifically the Badger Vote Coalition, and how does it serve our students?
Sure. So I want to start by saying people might wonder, why do we have a coalition for voting on campus? And the reason is we believe that voting is one important piece of the Wisconsin idea and our obligation to help students learn to be fully participating citizens and parts of their community. So we think voting, being part of the democratic process, is a really important piece of that. The Badgers Vote Coalition is made up of a number of individuals, groups, units across campus that are interested in nonpartisan voter education, helping students understand how to navigate the voting process. For many students, this will be the first time that they've voted. And so we realize that folks need some education, need a little help along the way to figure it out and make sure that they're successful on election day.
Great, thank you. And I know, thinking back to when I was a first-year student on campus, I was extremely confused, I guess, on how to vote. I didn't know if it was by residence halls, if it was by address, if I could vote anywhere on campus, or if I had to stick to a certain poll. So could you please explain a little bit, just, I guess, in general, how voting works on campus?
Sure. So a student can find out where they vote either by going to the MyVote website. It's myvote.wi.gov. That's the state's website. We also have a Where Do I Vote on the clerk's page at cityofmadison.com/clerk. And I think the UW also has a really good vote.wis.edu site as well. And a student votes at a very specific polling place, as do all voters in the city of Madison. So you need to go to your specific polling place. It's based on where you live. It depends on which polling place on the UW campus, whether or not there's non-university voters or whether there's university voters. It sort of depends. We have a mix on certain one depending on how deep into the university it is. And so if you go to any of those websites I mentioned earlier, you can find out which polling place that you vote. And even if you show up to the wrong one, the poll workers there should be able to show you, should be able to tell you which location you vote at.
And are these polling locations specific to UW students, or are like citizens who just live in the area, do they also vote at these UW voting locations as well?
Yes, some do. So so the ones that are, it depends on the ward boundaries. There are some wards that it specifically really only encompasses like the dormitories, and then there's some that encompass some of the dormitories, and then some of the residential areas just along the side of campus. So it really depends. Some is a mix, some it's all students.
And I know we discussed that for many of these college students, this probably will be the first time that they do vote, so they will need to register. I know that was also kind of confusing for me when I registered to vote as well. Can you just kind of explain the process, what documentation the students will need, as well as is there a different process between out-of-state students versus in-state students? Just because I know UW does host a lot of out-of-state students as well.
Sure. The process itself is pretty much the same between the two. However, you'll find that there's probably more difficulties for for the students who are out of state versus the students who are in state. And that's because having a Wisconsin driver's license or state ID is really helpful in both registering to vote and to show a voter ID in the voting process. And so, as far as registering, the thing that's nice is a student can go to their student center, and I believe there's a way to generate a letter to help prove enrollment and to prove their address. Also, we accept a printout of the student center that shows the student's name and address. We consider the UW's website to be a government document, so that is a functional proof of residence to be used to register to vote. But the typical ones that we see, not just on campus, but outside of campus, are utility bill that includes a cell phone bill, bank statement, pay stub, a lot of things like that. It can't just be a general piece of mail, which we do get sometimes, but there's very specific things that you can use to register to vote. And so as far as beyond just registering to vote, an ID is necessary to be able to cast a ballot. And as I mentioned, that's where you see a lot of struggle from the students who are out of state, is that they don't necessarily have an in-state Wisconsin ID or driver's license. If they have a passport, that's good, that works right away. However, if they don't have either of those, like a tribal ID or military ID, then they can get a voter identification card from the WIS card office. But the way voter ID works is if you're showing a student a voter identification card, there's a second part of it that they also have to show that they're currently enrolled in the campus. And so they can use tuition, statement, class schedule. ASM bus pass is usually the most efficient way to show enrollment. So that's a challenge that out-of-state students will find, but those are the ways that they can still get their ballot passed.
It's funny you bring up the student center because I remember voting for the first time and there's like a huge line of students. And I remember just like walking by and they all had their phones out with the exact same screen on it because it's just so easy to use a student center. And I was like, I don't know, I don't have like proof of address. So when I went there and I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is super nice. So yes, student center is a great tool for that. And I guess just given, the current climate of this fall selection and being in a pandemic, some students might not feel safe to go vote in person or physically. So what are some of the alternative options that students can opt to choose? And if they do choose those alternative options, are there any important deadlines that these voters should be aware of before choosing these options?
Sure. First and foremost, we're pushing absentee voting. So you can get a ballot mailed to you. And in order to do that, we need the request in writing. So you can mail it to our office, you can email it to our office at voting@cityofmadison.com, or you can use the state's MyVote website, myvote.wi.gov. And using the website, it just asks you, if you click the vote absentee link at the top, it asks you for first name, last name, and date of birth. It will look up your record, you verify your name and address, and then you just choose which elections you'd like it for. And obviously with this year, we only have the November one still to go. And then in the first time you request an absentee ballot where you're registered, it will ask you to provide a photo ID similar to the ID you would show at a polling place. So if you have a state ID or a passport, that's where you would upload it. Again, if you use a student ID, a voter ID, you'll have to show the student ID as well as a proof of enrollment. So you would upload a picture of both of those documents. And then it would be verified, and then the ballot could be sent to you. If you're emailing us or mailing it to us, you just include the same documentation. We do have a form, but you don't have to turn in a specific form to request an absentee ballot, as long as you give us your name, your address, and where we should send the ballot to you, we'll certainly get that out to you. If you're voting on, one option we have is in-person absentee voting, which for the campus, I believe we do 2 weeks before the November election. In August, what we did, instead of having our in-person absentee voting in buildings on the campus, is we set up tents around campus. So we had tents at Library Mall, Engineering Mall, in front of the Kohl Center, and in the Nat Dejope area campus. And we just had people there to both register people to vote, provide an absentee ballot for them to cast right there and give back to that person. Or if you had an absentee ballot mailed to you, you can come drop off your absentee ballot to those people. So that was an option that they had. We're looking to do that same thing for this next election. And then if you miss all of those opportunities, you can vote at your polling place on election day. We do have curbside voting, so we'll have people stationed outside of polling places. So you can come there and just provide your identification. You can even just drive up or walk up or bike up. Any of those work, skateboard up, and then just show your ID and or register to vote, and then show your ID, and then they'll go inside. They'll get your ballot, bring it out to you. You can vote right there at the curbside, and then they'll bring it in and put it through the tabulator and get your vote counted. And then even if you feel safe enough and you want to come inside, all of our poll workers wear masks. It's a requirement that we have that they wear masks. If you don't have a mask, we have masks that voters can wear. If that's the barrier in coming inside and they don't feel comfortable without a mask, we certainly have some. We have a lot of hand sanitizer. We disinfect all high-touch areas on a regular basis. We have plexiglass screens between the voters and our poll workers, and we're just doing everything we can to make it as safe as possible for our voters who decide they come into our polling place on election day.
I just want to chime in and say, first of all, how amazing the city clerk's office is to work with. I mean, every election I feel that way, but the elections this year especially so. And I do just want to really put a plug in for that in-person absentee voting. I think if you're a student who has never voted before and are uncertain about the process, what I like about that in-person absentee is it's well in advance of election day. It's at multiple locations. Students can go to the location that is the most convenient for them. You can do the whole process. You can register to vote on the spot. If for some reason you don't have the exact right ID or enrollment information or any piece of information, you can come back the next day. It's going on for several days. The hours are usually pretty generous. So I think it's a really kind of low stress, forgiving way for somebody to vote for the first time if they've never done it before.
Now, if a student has any questions about where to vote or when to vote, or just wanting to get in contact with the Badgers Vote Coalition, maybe they want to volunteer with them, first of all, how would they go about contacting? And then second, if they would like to volunteer, are you allowing that this fall, or how would they go about doing that?
So for general questions about the Badgers Vote Coalition, folks can email vote@mortgage.wisc.edu. They're also very active on Instagram and Facebook at Badgers Vote. And they've also launched a podcast called Podcast Your Vote that you can find on Spotify and Anchor and Pocket Casts.
Awesome. And we've actually been in contact with the two people who run that, just kind of getting this webcast up, and they're great. Oh, we love talking to them. They're awesome. So with that, it looks like we're actually almost out of time. So again, I would just like to say thank you to Meredith and Jim for joining me today. If you would like to check out any of the resources that we discussed in this webcast, we will be linking all of these websites below in the caption. And as always, Ask Bucky Unfiltered will be posted on Sundays around 11 o'clock on our Campus and Visitor Relations social media, as well as on our YouTube channel. And now we have it uploaded to our website. So that's also very exciting. But again, just thank you all for listening. I can't wait to see you all next time, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.